What's up, YouTube land? It's your boy Anton, aka Dr. Mix-a-Lot, and today I'm here to talk to you about what I call the Dr. Mix-a-Lot business workflow. This is basically a series of videos that I plan to break everything down to you, soup to nuts, A to Z, from everything from advertising your services to actually booking your events, and then working the events and collecting the money when you work them. Now again, I plan to make this into a 3-part series in which I demonstrate how I use this workflow to book events. Now for part 1 of the series, we're just going to talk about a brief overview of the platforms and resources that I use to advertise, manage the leads I get, and most importantly, collect the money. In part 2, I'll go into the nuts and bolts of actually booking a lead, but also going through a step-by-step demonstration using kind of fictitious examples, but a live demonstration of how I go from securing the information to converting that into a contract in which a customer signs and books. And then in part 3 of the series, I'll go through, once that customer has actually booked the event, everything you need to know from sending the confirmation email, putting everything in your calendar, working the event, and following through at the end of the event. So without further ado, so this is part 1 of the Dr. Mix-a-Lot business workflow series, which again, I will be giving you an overview of the platforms and resources and tools that I use to actually get these events. Specifically, one, to advertise your services. Obviously, you're not going to be able to book events if no one knows who you are or what you do. So you're going to want to be able to advertise things. Then I'll go into the different tools that I use to actually manage the leads I get. I want to be upfront that, especially starting off in the business, you have to have the realistic expectation that you're probably only going to book maybe 1 out of 7, even 10 leads that you get, to which that will actually lead to a real party. So at the same time, you want to keep track of all that information so you can capture as many leads as you can. And I'm going to show you some tips and tricks on how to do that. And 3, and the most important, is collecting your money. There's a lot of online payment services out there that people don't use, and I highly encourage you to use all of them. And in this part of the video series, I'm just going to give you a brief list of the ones that I use in my business to make sure when a customer asks me, can you accept this, I can always say yes. So let's get into it. Okay, so now I want to talk about some of the advertising platforms I have used in the past, and one that I actually continue to use, other than some of the other sources that I get, which I'll go into next time. But first, starting off with Thumbtack, which is really a great resource and advertising platform that you can use to get your services out there, especially when you're first starting off. Now, I haven't used Thumbtack in quite some time, but really the advantage with Thumbtack is that you basically pay by the lead, so you can take leads individually as you see fit and try to bid for their services. But you can also receive what you call targeted leads, in which customers that are looking for a specific type of bartender or specific type of services will actually reach out to you, and then your money is taken from a pool of a budget that you set aside at the beginning of each week or every 2 weeks. I forget which it is with Thumbtack, but I believe it's weekly. So just to give you a quick example, these are examples of some of the messages you can get in which you can actually respond to the leads. So this one is pending right now, but this is one of the leads I've responded to, in which they give you all the information, and then I can actually reach out to them on my own accord and see if they want to continue with our services. Again, you can do targeting preferences, in which you set aside a budget that is taken out, again, I believe weekly. Set the amount that you want to spend, and it'll show you how many leads you can get, how many views, etc. And then those are what you would call warm leads, as opposed to cold leads, because those are leads where people are actually looking for someone like you to do their services. Now with mine, I've turned targeting off. I don't use Thumbtack anymore, but just to give you a quick crash course, you can turn on this, and a kind of tricky part about this, which you can kind of overcome, but you have to actually do how much you charge on the job. And it's a lot of different details that you may not be able to really pinpoint down, because a lot of things depend on what other additional services they want. But this at least gives you a kind of overview on the different types of things Thumbtack can do for you. Now, one of the disadvantages of this, however, you can pay by the lead, but those things add up pretty quickly. So the thing is, if you use something like Thumbtack, whether you use the targeted services or just the regular leads, you want to make sure your closing percentage on these is very good, because that stuff can add up very quickly. And before you know it, you spend $100 on different leads trying to book the only one you got for $200, and then there goes the $100 in the hole already. So you just want to make sure that your closing is as efficient as possible if you're going to use Thumbtack. The next one I've used before is called the Bash. Actually used to be called Gig Masters when I used it before, but they've since changed their name. But this is a pretty decent advertising platform as well. And you can actually go to this website. It operates a lot like GigSalad, which I'll go into later. But this will actually allow you to advertise your services and have people contact you. And actually I went through, I didn't really want to sign up for real, so I kind of put in some dummy information just to get you started and let you show what they want. But you can go through here and show what kind of different things you do. For, in our case, it would be event staffing. And then a bartender. Next. And then this is when we get to the rub, completing the payment. So you can see here that you can add your credit debit card here, and they will actually charge you $300. They gave me choices earlier, but I believe it's $300 for a yearly subscription, which to me is a disadvantage of using a website like this. I really personally do not like yearly subscriptions because they lock you in for that year, so you really don't know what you're going to get. So unless you're really familiar with that service, I would tell you to avoid yearly subscriptions. But again, this actually might be a good place for you to start. And if you want to roll that $300 into your starting costs, which I talk about in another video, that's something that you can do and still get away with it. So the next one, this is called Wedding Wire, which I cannot lie, did not have a great experience with Wedding Wire, mostly because this is more of an advertising platform for big caterers, big companies that can supply a whole bunch of different services, usually their own liquor licenses, things of that nature, and are really big, high-profile businesses. So, long story short, this is again another yearly subscription, but the difference between this and the Bash is that this is much more expensive. It's probably over $1,000, I believe $1,200 for a yearly subscription when I signed up. And quite frankly, it did not deliver nearly the amount of leads that I was expecting to for the investment I put in it. So again, Wedding Wire is a great place. You'll definitely find a lot of what I call big fish customers, where you got a lot of people willing to spend a lot of money because it's a very popular website. With that said, it wasn't my cup of tea. They got a lot of great gadgets, analytics. You can actually put a lot of your reviews up here to get your profile started. But again, I didn't have the best experience with it, but it might work for you. And finally, moving on, this is my personal favorite, GigSalad, which strangely enough, I got my first event on this and then didn't use it for about a year or two because I couldn't seem to get events. But in the last few years, I've really taken off with GigSalad, and I really like this because this will send you out a notification for anyone that's looking for an event. And basically, the higher your profile, the more notifications you'll get, and the more that customer will reach out to featured members, of which I am one. Now, this is nice because it's not a yearly subscription, but rather a 3-month subscription. And maybe I can just go here to my account and give you a little more information about that. Okay, here we go. Sometimes it takes me a bit, but here you see here that, you know, it's basically about $169 every 3 months, and actually that can be broken down if you change your membership. That can actually the cost per month can go down over time. Now with this one, it's not showing it here, but I have a featured membership which is different from, I think, even cheaper options you can take. But for me, I can actually get this for $169 a month, or $289 every 2 years, or just pay the full out $479. And with the leads I've been getting from GigSalad, I think I am going to up this at some point, because I really get a lot of bang for my buck with this. And again, kind of the disadvantage or advantage, depending on how well you're able to close your leads, is that I get a whole bunch of leads for GigSalad for this amount of time, or this amount, and it's unlimited for 3 months. Whereas with Thumbtack, you got to pick and choose which leads are going to be the most fruitful for you. So with that said, those are the different advertising platforms I use. But also, which the great part of being in the business after some experience is that you will actually get a lot of recurring customers. Go to venues where they'll list you as a preferred vendor for them. So I am at the point where probably 30 to 40% of my leads are customers I've worked with before. With that said, there are a lot of great advertising platforms you can use to get started. Simply start on that resume I told you about, fill in your information, and you will be able to start on these ad platforms. Now, once you actually start on these ad platforms, though, and get yourself out there, you're going to want to be able to manage your leads. And this is important because, again, I have to reiterate that, especially starting off, you're going to have to expect that you're only going to book maybe 1 to 7, 1 to 10 of your leads, sometimes better, sometimes worse, that come to you. Only those 1 to 7 to 1 to 10 of those are going to end up as a booked event. So you're really going to want to make sure that you manage all of this. And a great way to start with this is Dropbox. I love Dropbox, and mainly because the best part about it is that you can actually integrate it into your computer. If you look here, I've actually really haven't opened Dropbox online in years. What I do is once you subscribe to Dropbox, you're able to hook it up to your computer and not actually use the physical storage space on your computer, but you have all this information on the cloud ready to go at a moment's notice. Now, if you'll look here, I'll go into this in other videos, but I like to break my leads to booked events into what I call a funnel. So I start here with my leads, where these are people that approach me on these ad platforms. I put a pricing sheet for them just to calculate how much I'm going to charge, but pretty much all of these people have never contacted me back, which is fine because I have these people that have. And you'll see that I put a little more information in there that I've collected from them, started an invoice number for them to make sure that they stay on my radar and that I'm able to take care of them to try to book that event. Now we'll go to booked events, where I actually have collected a deposit from these customers and we are 100% ready to go unless they cancel. So that said, I have all the information I need here with the detailed customer agreement, the pricing spreadsheet, and any other additional notes that I need to make sure that I work the event correctly. And then finally, you're going to want to make sure that you keep track of all the events you completed. I have all the events I completed this year, in 2019, 20, and this will become a wealth of information. One, for tax time, when you're really going to need it, just to keep track of all the things you've done, the different independent contractors you may have sent out, and also reconjuring up some of this information in case you get repeat customers. So again, Dropbox is a really great way to keep track of all this different stuff. whole bunch of different documents. I have liquor license information, testimonials, accounting material, tax stuff, my different bartender profiles, all that I keep on Dropbox, and it is my one-stop shop for any information I need for the history of my business. Going hand in hand in that, you're going to want to move next to Google Drive. This is also a great wealth of information you can use to store different things, though I don't use it as much as Dropbox. I do like to use this as a platform for the other ones I'm going to talk to you about, because this is a good way you can store information on the cloud, and then also use this to work with your virtual assistant, which is what I'm going to get into in other videos once you've built yourself to the point where you're going to need an extra hand. But you can store all types of stuff in here, and this will actually segue me into the next Google gadget that I use, which is a good old plain spreadsheet. Now, you can do an Excel spreadsheet on your computer, which is fine, but personally I like to keep this on the cloud in Google Drive, in fact, because it's always there for me, can be changed by people remotely, again, your virtual assistant, in live time, and it's actually a great storage device to pull it up anytime you need it, as long as you're connected to the internet, even if you don't have your computer on you. So that's great for using your phone to look up any last minute information you need. But this is also a great way to keep track of your different customer contacts, their name, the invoice number, the current status of the event, whether it's booked or pending, and then some action items that you may need, or any notes that you have. The date in which it's supposed to occur, the address, and etc. A whole bunch of good information there. Going with that, you'll also want to use Google Calendar. Which I love about Google Calendar is the fact that you are actually able to put in all the different information that you need for an event and actually send it out to the bartender and the customer that you're going to actually be working with. So that's also a great way of keeping track of details of your event and making sure that these people actually, the customers and your bartenders, are on the same page with you, because you can send invites with all the detailed information that you need. We also have Google Voice, which I quite simply use as a business line. That gives you a more professional front, and you also won't have to get it tied up with your personal stuff. Rather, you can actually get a business line from Google Voice free of charge and actually post that on your website to avoid posting your personal phone number, but also it gives you a more professional image when you have a business line that you can use, that you can actually pinpoint when customers are calling you versus anybody else. And finally, a big tool in my toolkit is Panda Dock. Now, I'll go into part 2 of my series, where I explain kind of how to go use Panda Dock to create contracts and then collect on either deposits or even the full price if you want to collect your money all up front, which some bartenders like to do. You can actually use this thing as a one-stop shop for creating invoices and actually collecting money and communicating to your customers. But just to give you a quick overview, what I love about this is that you are actually able to create drafts and actually, I have to go to another part of it, but you're actually able to go through these contracts and duplicate contracts. So that's great, because it actually saves a lot of time by not having to start from scratch. So you can actually go in here, edit things. You can put all the pertinent information you need, the time, any additional items you're going to be providing, discounts, pricing spreadsheet, the whole works. It really breaks it down and gives you a very nice professional image of a bartender that has got their stuff in order and has contracts and things that the customer can refer to, so they know exactly what you're getting in an itemized list. Furthermore, you can actually put any of your terms and conditions, which I have to admit to you, this is probably 70% of the communication you're going to do with your customer, is making sure that they understand the terms and conditions of how you operate. Therefore, if there's any questions, obviously you can answer them as you go along. But if there's any ambiguity or uncertainty, you can always point to the customer contract that I have them initial to let them know the stipulations of working with your business. That way, when things, if anything gets heated, you'll at least know that you all came to an agreement when cooler heads have prevailed, and then that way you can always point to this agreement in case anything gets nasty with the customers, which we always hope that never will happen, but always hope for the best and prepare for the worst. So with that said, it's got a lot of cool features that you can use to have the customer sign, initial, and break down what you're actually getting for them. You can actually send them an invoice again for the deposit or the full amount, and all of that can be done online. You don't have to even talk to your customers. 60% of my customers I've never even talked to over the phone. It's that quick and efficient, and it's a program that you really want to have in your arsenal. Now, of course, you're also going to want to have your standard word processing programs like Microsoft Word and PowerPoint and all the things you can do to make basic things. Also, Adobe PDF, because you can use PDFs a lot in your business to keep track of any contracts or any other communications you have with your customers. Now, with all that said, the one thing you're really going to want to have, and this is a perfect segue into the next part of this, but you're going to want to have a way to get paid. And that brings me into segment 3 of this video, which is make sure you take advantage of every single pay site out there that you can use. When I started in this business, all I had originally was PayPal, and I thought I was fancy when I actually bought the little scanner you could put on your phone and actually have people swipe their cards through. With that said, at this point, things have evolved rapidly in the last 7 years that I've been operating, and there's really no excuse you should have when a customer asks, can you accept this, that you should say no. I mean, when a customer asked me when I only had PayPal, do you use Venmo? I basically told them, well, I think I do now, because I want to make sure that the next time that they ask me that I'm going to be able to be ready for that, to make it easy for them to pay you. Because at the end of the day, customers don't want to part with their money, let's be real. But with that said, if you provide a professional front and you're ready to give them any accommodation to collect their money, whether it's cash, check, or any of these pay sites I'm going to list, they are going to love you for it, and it'll make it a lot easier and a lot less stress for you to get that payday at the end of the day, which is, as much as we're in this for service and fun and friendliness, that's what matters too, because we're a for-profit bottom line business, and as long as we deliver good service, we want to be paid in kind. So with that said, I'll go in the order that I use these pay sites. Again, I have all of them. Don't get it twisted. I can accept any of these payment sites, but I'm just going to list to you just to give you just an understanding of different things that I've been hit with over the years on whether I can accept this payment. So the first is Stripe. This is actually a program that I use through Panda Dock, which allows me to collect deposits from the customers and also full payments, and I can do that right through the contract, no problem. And the next right after that is PayPal, because Panda Dock actually allows you to pay through Stripe and PayPal now, where originally it was only Stripe. But also with PayPal, I have the business version of it where I can actually send invoices to my customers separately. So if anything messes up with Panda Dock for whatever reason, or I just need to pick up an extra payment from a customer, PayPal is a great way to send a professional looking invoice with the computer or the customer agreement, and make sure that you are able to provide all the details you need to collect. Furthermore, there's other things you know them all, like Cash App, Venmo, Zelle, Google Pay, Square. Again, I have all of these services. I probably use the first two that I mentioned 90% of the time. But with that said, those other 10%, you better believe that I'm ready with that app, with whatever I have to make sure that I'm able to collect and make it as easy for the customer as possible to pay me at the end of the night or whenever it's needed. So with that said, I hope all of that helped. If you like what you saw, please be sure to click the like or subscribe button. This is Dr. Mix-a-Lot signing off. As always, happy mixing and cheers to unbeatable service.